I am joined by Faraz Jaka. Now, Faraz, you're always a man of many opinions, but always based in lots of facts, lots of deep inner looking. And you've tweeted out some things recently that I thought were really interesting and some, more polarizing things in the poker community.
Okay.
So I wanted to get you to go a little more in depth, give us a little deep dive. One of the tweets is about something that's come up a lot this year, which is, do you chop? Is chopping
Mhm.
something that's, ultimately plus EV? Is this only something rec players should or could
Yeah.
do? Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. So I actually, when I was younger in my career, I would never chop. Very proud of it, and I definitely felt like this maybe gives me a psychological advantage over my players, which is some of the counters that people have told me. I think that's true to a certain extent. I mean, first of all, no one's really keeping track of like who chops and who doesn't chop. And how often do you end up at a final table versus someone who knows that? I think it's just so rare that I wouldn't base it on that. You could also be the player that never brings up the idea to chop, but still be willing to chop. Then you could still kind of have that psychological dominance. I mean, but here's the thing: like you're playing for millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and being able to realize your equity in those spots gives you a bankroll boost, allows you to play bigger, allows you to have more comfort, and that's important. I mean, majority of players in this game don't survive because they go broke because of bankroll management, not because they don't chop and people take advantage of them at final tables because they think they're weak. I don't know anyone who's going broke because of that.
So you see it as just overall another slight way to remove an element of gamble from the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if someone could make 200K a year playing MTTs or make 150K a year with like 100% guaranteed every year, you're probably going to take the 150. It's more, and that's why people, swap and like do things to reduce variance or sell action. Sorry, those aren't the best examples, but the point is just that yeah, reducing variance is very valuable, and you'll take a little bit less for it.
Do you think, especially, okay, so I think the idea, right, is that more traditionally recreational players are the ones who are going to be willing to or interested in chopping, and that maybe a lot of those players don't even fully understand how to make an ICM chop in a
Hmm.
way that's the
Hmm.
most valuable to them. And this is, of course, a very complicated
Yeah,
issue,
yeah.
but how would you suggest if players are going to chop, like what kind of resources to even understand
Yeah.
how much they deserve?
I mean, I honestly feel like it's the operator's job to protect all the players and to just, you know, a lot of venues do this now, but just bring up the ICM chop and say, hey, this is the fair way to do it. If you guys want to negotiate a deal, you're welcome to, but this is what the fair numbers are. I mean, that's pretty easy. Um, and yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it. It's doing an ICM chop is fair, and they just need to be presented the right numbers. Like chops are generally not fair unless it's heads up. Then there's no ICM. But yeah, and you said recreationals normally do it, but I don't know. I also, I have some recreational students of my own that they just have so much money they don't care, and they're just like, I'm here to win. Like it's not going to make a difference. I want to battle it out. So it goes both ways. Yeah.
And it's definitely, I could see how that could be a misconception. Okay, so another tweet that you put out there that I thought was really interesting, as someone who I do not pursue goals very regularly,
Mm.
maybe because I just would never get to them, but I've never been a real goal oriented person. And yet,
Yeah.
this is an industry that I think is full of people who are looking to reach and attain certain very specific things. And you had some advice on why some of the goal setting
Yeah.
things might not be working for people.
Yeah, so I mean, I spent a lot of time talking, over DMs to like students and potential students or people just looking for poker advice, and I like so often just get people. I'm like, hey, tell me a little bit about your background in poker. What you're looking to do, and so many people are like, all right, this year I want to win a bracelet. I want to get 4 pound tables. I want to make 100K, and like playing tournaments, like you can't control those things. There's just too much variance, and the problem is you might do everything correctly and then not hit those goals, and now you're going to be demotivated, and that's not going to work, right? So you want to make your goals things that are in your control. So I always recommend students like do something like, hey, I want to study 5 hours a week. I want to learn one new tool per quarter. I want to play this many tournaments per month. Like those are things you can control, and if you do those things, those results you want will happen.
And is that how you manage and maintain your own life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like there are things outside of poker where you can goal set and be results oriented, but you just can't in poker because of the swings.
And so you're someone who's sort of notoriously, you're an entrepreneur. You've definitely had lots of things, avenues, interests outside of poker. And actually, I didn't realize that you were coaching or had a coaching
Mhm.
site business. And I'm not even sure how to categorize,
Yeah.
but until the Ravi Jade Lou drama, all of a sudden
Mhm.
I was like, I'm sorry, Faraz,
See, it
he's
was good. It was
accessible.
good marketing. See, even she found out about it that way.
Yeah, but so tell me a little bit about,
Yeah.
what it really is, what
Yeah.
was sort of the motivation behind it.
So yeah, during the pandemic, tours were shut down. So I've always had a lot of people reach out to me for coaching and didn't really have the time to do it. So I started coaching during the pandemic. We're also, my wife is pregnant. We're having a baby, and I was like, all right, maybe I'm not gonna want to travel so much on tour long term. So started doing one-on-one coaching. Literally coached like over 100 students one-on-one over like that year and a half, and I had more requests from people that wanted lower rates. I couldn't afford it, or also just my time started getting capped. So that kind of led to me doing group coaching. Group coaching kind of led to me doing a training site where I started recording the sessions, cutting them up, and turning it into content. So basically, I do a weekly group coaching session where it's super interactive. So players will show up and they're like, what would you do in this spot? Why? What does your range look like? And a lot of times people will give kind of lazy answers and not give their suits or their kickers. And I really push them to answer properly. I'll explain takeaways, ask them to re-explain the takeaways, because I'm really big on you learn when you see things visually, audibly, and then you also have to repeat it back. Because so many coaching sessions, like students are just listening and they're like, yeah, I got it. And weeks later, it's like, no, they didn't get it. And when you're forced to explain it back, that's where you really learn. So it's on top of that, I'm also teaching people how to talk hand histories, how to document them, how to use tools. It's really about learning how to set up the right infrastructure and environment to learn and succeed.
Which is so interesting because it's like owning your own business, right? And so
Mhm.
in some ways you're teaching people how to effectively operate
Yeah.
their own business. And I think I've heard a lot, at least my husband, for example, people always said, oh, why don't you open a gym and why don't you train people to fight? And he
Yeah.
always said, the best trainers, the best people I ever had weren't necessarily the best fighters.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's
Yeah.
like, I think I would be a terrible teacher. Some people, though, I think are able to
Yeah.
be both players and
Yeah.
teachers. And so have you found yourself in a position where you both enjoy and think that this is something that you're going to continue to pursue? Teaching is
Oh,
your
for
skill.
sure, for sure. By coaching and building the site is my number one priority. I want to help as many students as I can, become good, winning, profitable players. It's definitely tough trying to balance that and playing. But I actually really love that because most of my students are recreational semi-pros, people with, business or they're lawyers, doctors, teachers, or just parents, and they find it hard to keep up with the game. So I'm kind of in the same boat as them, and I'm coming up with solutions for myself that I'm able to share with them. So it's really awesome. But one of the things I love about it is I get to meet so many interesting people from different backgrounds, and I'm super social. I love meeting people. So that's just like an extra perk from coaching.
Wow. So it started with a crew of people that obviously mostly knew you and were like, hey, can we get one-on-one coaching? And then as it's branched out to this bigger thing, it's people that you've never even met before.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And what's cool is I really like we do a lot of like meetups like in person and at events, and we'll do dinner on dinner breaks. And what I really love is I get to connect them with each other because a lot of pros, we all have our circles, we get to swap with each other, like get feedback from each other. And most of the recreationals don't have that. So that's one thing I really like about our community, that I get to connect them with each other, and now they have their own crew as well.